Georgia, November 2021. Federal agents open an old popcorn tin hidden in a bathroom closet. Inside, a tiny circuit board with something unbelievable. Over 50,000 bitcoins worth more than $3.3 billion. The largest cache of dark web loot ever discovered. For 10 years, no one knew who stole this fortune from the infamous Silk Road marketplace. Until one tiny transfer, just $200, gave the hacker away. How did one soft-spoken millionaire nearly get away with looting the dark web's most notorious market? And how did a single transaction finally bring him down? It's September 2012. Online drug bazaars on the dark web are thriving, and Silk Road is the most notorious of them all. Hidden behind Tor encryption, Silk Road is like an eBay for illegal goods, cocaine, guns, hacking services, all sold anonymously. Payments are made in Bitcoin, a new digital currency beyond any government's reach. By 2012, Silk Road's kingpin, Ross Ulbricht, aka Dread Pirate Roberts, is raking in millions in commissions. Business is booming. But with all that Bitcoin changing hands, opportunity lurks. Somewhere on the site, a young computer whiz has stumbled onto a vulnerability, a crack in Silk Road's payment system, and he's about to exploit it in spectacular fashion. The plan is bold and deceptively simple. Trick Silk Road's withdrawal system into releasing far more Bitcoin than it should. The 22-year-old hacker creates a handful of fake Silk Road accounts, about 9 in total, using false names and the bare minimum info to register. He isn't there to buy or sell drugs. His dummy accounts are just getaway cars for stealing Bitcoin. First, he deposits a small amount of BTC into one of these accounts, say 500 Bitcoin, worth around $6,600 at the time. Then, in a split second, he triggers a rapid-fire flurry of withdrawal requests. The same account asking to withdraw those 500 BTC 5 times in a row, all within the same second. The Silk Road system is confused. It thinks each request is valid and spits out 500 BTC again and again. In a blink, his 500 BTC deposit turns into 2,000 BTC credited back to him, a net gain of 1,500 coins. He essentially printed money out of thin air. But would Silk Road notice before it was too late? It feels like hitting the jackpot by finding a cheat code. But he doesn't stop at one round. The hacker repeats this trick over and over across his burner accounts. Another account makes a deposit and then executes over 50 rapid withdrawals before the site can catch on. Each time, the balance in his wallets balloons. In total, he siphons approximately 50,000 Bitcoin from Silk Road's coffers. At 2012 prices, that's only around $600,000, a huge theft, but not yet life-changing. Still, it's a sizable chunk of Silk Road's circulating funds. And amazingly, no one notices in the moment. The marketplace's focus is on facilitating trades. A glitch in the withdrawal system isn't immediately obvious amid thousands of transactions. Before the admins can plug the leak, the hacker has escaped into the wind with the funds. He moves quickly to cover his tracks. The stolen Bitcoin is shuffled into different addresses under his control. Within days, he consolidates the loot into just 2 big wallets, one holding 40,000 BTC and another holding 10,000 BTC. Now the Bitcoin sits outside of Silk Road in the hacker's personal stash. On the blockchain, all anyone can see are coins moving to new addresses. There's no name or IP attached to them. The thief is effectively invisible. He hasn't had to deploy malware or hold anyone at gunpoint or even write fancy code. He just outsmarted the system's timing. It's the perfect digital heist. No alarms, no police, no immediate suspects. But how long can such a theft remain undetected? By late 2012, whispers of weird inconsistencies in Silk Road's finances may have reached Dread Pirate Roberts. Perhaps Ulbricht or his admins noticed the sudden 50,000 BTC shortfall and realized they'd been conned. We know they quickly fixed the withdrawal bug, but by then it was too late. The coins were gone. And tracing Bitcoin in 2012 is like chasing smoke. Law enforcement barely even understands what Bitcoin is at this point. The mysterious hacker vanishes into the depths of the web, leaving no clue to his identity. Silk Road continues operating. It wouldn't be shut down by the FBI until a year later. And for now, no one even knows a historic theft just took place. Who exactly pulled this off? At this stage, it's a nameless figure, a phantom. and that's exactly how he plans to keep it. The hacker has 50,000 illicit bitcoins burning a hole in his pocket. Step 1 of his plan is complete. Now comes step 2. Lie low and don't get caught. He has just become extraordinarily rich in theory. Yet, cashing out or drawing attention could ruin everything. As he shuts his laptop that day in 2012, he must be equal parts elated and terrified. He's gotten away with the perfect crime, but the game isn't over. How do you hide a fortune in a place built to track it? Weeks turn into months, then years. The Silk Road hacker remains in the shadows, hiding his stolen Bitcoin and saying nothing to anyone. In October 2013, Silk Road is famously busted by the FBI in a San Francisco library, as we talked here in another video. Ulbricht's laptops reveal mountains of evidence of drug deals, but notably not a clue about the 50,000 BTC theft. Yet quietly, a 600K stash of Silk Road Bitcoins is growing into a monster. Bitcoin's price is rising year by year, and the 50,000 BTC that our phantom stole have swelled to tens of millions of dollars, then hundreds of millions. And who is our phantom? His name is James Zhong, but nobody knows it yet. In the real world, James Jimmy Zhong is an unassuming young man from Georgia. In 2012, when he pulled off the hack, he was just 22, a student and self-taught coder living in Athens, Georgia, a place known more for college football than cybercrime. He's smart, but doesn't fit the Hollywood image of a criminal mastermind. Friends later describe him as soft-spoken, polite, and a bit of a tech geek. With his newfound wealth, Jimmy doesn't go on a flashy spending spree. There's no Lambo in the driveway, no Twitter bragging about getting rich off Bitcoin. Instead, he plays it safe and patient. He knows that if he suddenly converts thousands of BTC into cash, authorities will ask questions, especially as governments worldwide start cracking down on crypto crime. So, he hardly touches the main stash. For over a year, the 40K and 10K BTC wallets sit untouched. But how long can anyone stare at a growing fortune and do nothing? Eventually, Jimmy makes careful moves to obscure the funds further. From late 2013 through 2017, he periodically dribbles the Bitcoin into new addresses, splitting them up, moving them around like a shell game. He likely uses cryptocurrency mixers, services that shuffle your coins with others to erase traces, and moves some funds to offshore exchanges with loose regulations. He's effectively laundering the crypto, trying to break any clear link from the coins back to the Silk Road hack. By August 2017, an interesting thing happens. Bitcoin undergoes a hard fork, spawning a new offshoot called Bitcoin Cash, BCH. Anyone holding Bitcoin automatically receives an equal amount of BCH in a new wallet. Jimmy suddenly finds himself with 50,000 BCH on top of his BTC hoard. He wastes no time cashing those out, converting all that BCH into an extra 3,500 Bitcoin. It's like a bonus reward for his patience. His total haul is now about 50,500 BTC, currently well over $200 million by late 2017 and climbing. By 2019, Bitcoin's value is exploding, hovering in the 10K, 20K range. Jimmy Zhong's trove is worth hundreds of millions, then billions on paper. He has quietly become one of the richest Bitcoin holders on Earth, and no one knows. He channels some of this wealth into legitimate ventures, likely to launder it into clean money. In Memphis, Tennessee, he invests about $9.5 million into a real estate development company, gaining an 80% stake in a major property project. He also amasses physical silver and gold bars and holds cash. By the time agents eventually catch up to him, he has $661,000 in cash, plus gold and silver bars stashed away. These are prudent measures. He's diversifying the illicit wealth into assets that can't be frozen on a blockchain. All the while, law enforcement is evolving. The IRS, FBI, and blockchain analysis companies are getting much better at tracing crypto. The Silk Road case isn't completely forgotten. Those who investigated Ulbricht knew there was this cache of Bitcoin missing from the site's accounts. They just had no idea who had taken it. Over the years, blockchain sleuths traced the 50K BTC to a set of addresses. But those addresses sit dormant or hop through mixers, frustrating any leads. It's a waiting game. The investigators don't know the thief's name, but they know the coins are out there. They can only hope that someday, somehow the person holding them will slip up. Jimmy Zhong, meanwhile, believes he's been careful enough to be invisible. Nearly a decade has passed since his audacious heist. He's living comfortably, perhaps thinking he's beaten the odds. Wouldn't you? He'd pulled off what seemed like the perfect crime, and time was on his side. But the thing about perfect crimes is, they don't exist. At some point, everyone makes a mistake. After years of restraint, Jimmy is growing more confident that he's in the clear. And confidence breeds risk. Sometime in 2019, he decides to cash out just a tiny bit of his fortune. A test, maybe, or simply a taste of the luxury he's denied himself. The amount is laughably small given his hoard. About $200 worth of Bitcoin, pocket change. He sends it from one of his wallets to an account on a popular cryptocurrency exchange. Perhaps he's curious to see if he can liquidate larger sums this way. The exchange, however, isn't some unregulated offshore haven. It follows strict KYC, know your customer rules. He makes one tiny transfer, one traceable name. And just like that, Jimmy's perfect disguise begins to crack. Could a $200 mistake really solve a decade-long heist? The blockchain never forgets. That $200 transfer does what law enforcement couldn't do for years. Connects Jimmy's secret hoard to his real identity. Here's how it goes down. When Zhong moved that small amount of Bitcoin, the transaction combined inputs from two sources. One input came from his Silk Road loot wallet, and another came from a wallet tied to his verified exchange account. In an instant, Chainalysis agents spot a red flag. Their algorithms see that some of the crypto entering the exchange account can be traced back to the 2012 Silk Road hack. This is exactly the break investigators have been waiting for. They quietly obtain KYC data from the exchange, the name, email, and even login IP address of the account that received the $200 deposit. The name is James Zhong. The IP address? Gainesville, Georgia. After 10 years, they finally have him. Imagine being the agent on this case. One day, out of the blue, a long dormant trail lights up, and you have a real identity after a decade of dead ends. The investigation kicks into high gear. Federal agents start surveilling Zhong discreetly. Who is this guy? They find he's been living a low-key life in Georgia, not on the run, not spending lavishly enough to draw attention. It's almost too ordinary, which in a way confirms they've got the right man. By late 2021, the feds have gathered enough evidence for a search warrant. They suspect that Zhong still possesses a mind-boggling amount of Bitcoin, likely stored in devices in his home. They also know that such digital evidence can vanish with a keystroke, so they plan the raid carefully to catch him off guard. November 9th, 2021. It's showtime. IRS criminal investigation agents, accompanied by other federal officers, descend on Zhong's house in Gainesville. We don't know if Jimmy got any warning, perhaps a loud knock and the dread words, FBI, open up, or maybe they quietly entered while he wasn't home. Either way, they flood in and secure the premises. Zhong is caught, and for the first time, the mystery man and the stolen Bitcoin are in the same room as law enforcement. But finding 50,000 Bitcoin is not like finding a briefcase of cash. The agents have to hunt for digital storage devices that could be anywhere. A laptop, a hard drive, a USB stick, even written down keys. The search turns into a digital treasure hunt through closets, under floorboards, inside boxes, and even in the subscribe button of this channel. In the closet of a bathroom, an agent finds a Cheetos popcorn tin sitting on a shelf, oddly heavy. Inside, buried under a jumble of blankets, is a single-board computer, similar to a Raspberry Pi, attached to a circuit board. It's a DIY hiding spot for a tiny crypto wallet device. And on that device, the keys controlling 50,491 Bitcoin. Jackpot. In a hidden underground floor safe, they find another stash of hard drives, along with cash and precious metal. It takes a while to verify, but when the numbers are added up, the agents realize they've just seized the second largest pile of cryptocurrency in DOJ history. Over $3.36 billion worth of Bitcoin is now in custody, all traced back to the Silk Road heist. One investigator later quips that this case shows they'll follow criminals even to a circuit board in the bottom of a popcorn tin. As the news breaks, the world is stunned by the revelation. Who on earth is Jimmy Zhong, a soft-spoken 32-year-old nobody, now unmasked as possibly the biggest individual crypto thief ever? Unlike the notorious Dread Pirate Roberts, Jimmy never became a dark web kingpin or public enemy. He was the invisible nemesis in Silk Road's story. And ironically, stealing from an illegal drug market perhaps kept him safer for longer. The drug dealers couldn't exactly report the theft to police, and the whole episode flew under the radar. But justice was coming, slowly but surely. With overwhelming evidence in hand, the blockchain trail, the devices, the money, Zhong has little choice but to cooperate. In early 2022, likely hoping for leniency, he voluntarily hands over another 1004 BTC that agents hadn't recovered in the raid. Perhaps additional coins he had stored elsewhere or memorized the keys for. He comes clean. In November 2022, James Zhong pleads guilty to wire fraud for the Silk Road theft. Investigators and prosecutors are almost in awe of the case. It's not every day you solve a 10-year-old crypto mystery and recover billions. At Zhong's sentencing in April 2023, the judge notes the extraordinary circumstances. Wire fraud involving a darknet marketplace could have meant up to 20 years in prison. But because Jimmy cooperated fully, surrendered all 3.3B in Bitcoin, and had no other criminal conduct, the judge shows some mercy. The verdict: 1 year and 1 day in prison, just 366 days behind bars. And after that, supervised release. And of course, he forfeits all the assets from the crime. It's a remarkably light punishment compared to, say, Ross Ulbricht's life sentence, already free thanks to Donald Trump, of whom we also have a video in the channel. Essentially, Jimmy Zhong traded a decade of risky freedom for 1 year in prison. He almost got away with everything. But in the end, he loses his immense fortune and a year of his life. As he's led away in handcuffs, one can only imagine what's on Jimmy's mind. Regret at that one tiny mistake after years of caution? Relief that the saga is finally over and he's not facing decades in prison? Perhaps both. His story leaves law enforcement with a kind of grim satisfaction, another message to crypto criminals that blockchain anonymity only goes so far. In the words of the U.S. Attorney, "We will follow the money and hold you accountable, no matter how sophisticated your scheme and no matter how long it takes." It took almost 10 years, but they kept their promise. The mystery was over. But do you think the punishment matches the crime? Jimmy Zhong pulled off the biggest crypto heist you've never heard of, but he wasn't the only one who made history on the Silk Road. To see how the dark web's most infamous empire rose and fell, and how a single laptop brought it crashing down, watch our episode about the dark web's first empire, Silk Road.